I should have known something was wrong. Not because of anything obvious. No flickering lights, no ominous music, no cold wind crawling up my spine, but because that night, Zoe kissed me like she was saying goodbye. I didn't recognize it at the time. It just felt intense. Like she was holding on tighter than usual. Like her hands on my waist were memorizing the curve of my body and not just teasing it. Her lips tasted like cinnamon and cherry vodka, her breath warm against my neck as the music throbbed around us, and for a moment, I forgot we were at a party surrounded by people in latex, sequins, and fake blood. "You're staring," she said, laughing softly, her mouth brushing mine. "You look like something out of a dream," I replied, brushing a strand of glittered hair from her cheek. She rolled her eyes. "A sexy vampire dream, or like one of those weird ones where I'm a talking dog?" "Definitely the vampire." "Good," she said, stepping back just enough to let me see the curve of her fangs. "Because I don't bark." I laughed. She always made me laugh. That was one of the things I loved most about her, that even when the world felt like it was unraveling, Zoe could make it feel like a joke we were both in on. We were at Maddie's Halloween party, the big one everyone circled in red on their calendar. The mansion-style house had been transformed with dry ice, strobe lights, and a budget that could have funded a low-grade horror film. People were dancing in every corner, spilling drinks on ancient rugs, chanting along with whatever song the DJ had looped for the third time. But all I saw was Zoe. She was dressed like a vampire queen, deep red velvet corset, black lace sleeves, blood-stained lips. Her eyes were darker than usual, lined with kohl and something sharper. I came as her victim. Obvious, maybe. But she liked obvious when it was mine. We kissed again in the hallway between the kitchen and the staircase, halfway through our third round of drinks. "Come upstairs with me," she murmured. "We just got here." I protested, not really protesting.
Exactly.
Plenty of time to be social later. Her hand tugged mine and I followed. Of course I followed. Upstairs was quieter. Someone had tried to turn the second floor into a haunted maze, but most people were too drunk or too distracted to bother. We wandered through darkened rooms lit only by jack-o'-lanterns and red-tinted bulbs, stumbling into fake spider webs and motion-activated skeletons. Zoe found a room at the end of the hall, the door slightly ajar. Inside, it was empty, dim, quiet, a reprieve from the chaos. "This okay?" she asked. I nodded, and she closed the door behind us, locking it. Her mouth found mine again, hungrier now, and we collapsed onto the couch with a breathless laugh. It felt real. It felt right. It felt like the beginning of something. But it wasn't. It was the end. I don't know how long we were in that room. Maybe 20 minutes. Maybe an hour. The only light came from a small flickering lamp in the corner, and the music downstairs was muffled by layers of wood and insulation. We talked. We kissed. We whispered things too soft for memory. At one point, Zoe grew quiet. Her hand slipped from mine. "What's wrong?" I asked, brushing her hair back.
She shook her head.
"Nothing.
Just,
I love you, okay?" "I know. No, I mean really. I love you in a way that scares me." "Why would it scare you?" "Because I don't ever want to forget this," she said, voice suddenly tight. "I don't want to forget you." I didn't understand it then. I thought she was drunk, maybe getting emotional because of the atmosphere, the costumes, the low hum of something coming to an end. "You won't forget me," I whispered. "I promise." She looked at me, and there was something in her eyes. Something fragile. And then, a knock at the door.
Hard. Sharp.
3 times. Zoe stiffened. "Ignore it," I said. But she stood, walked to the door, opened it. Nothing. Just the hallway, flickering red. A fog machine hissed from somewhere far off. I touched her shoulder. "It's probably just someone looking for a bathroom." "Maybe."
She didn't sound convinced.
Then she turned to me, kissed me one last time, slower than before. "I'm gonna grab another drink," she said. "Want anything?" "Just you," I teased. "You already have me." I never saw her again. Not that night. 1 minute she was there. walking back down the hall with her cape trailing behind her like spilled ink. The next, she was gone. I waited for an hour. Then another. I looked for her. I asked Maddie. I checked every room. Called her phone a dozen times. Nothing. No one remembered seeing her leave. No one remembered her at all past midnight. It was like she had vanished into the costume smoke. When I left the party just before dawn, the world felt wrong. Not broken. Just off. Like the moment after a dream you can't quite shake. I told myself she'd call. That I'd wake up and she'd be next to me, laughing at how drunk I'd gotten, kissing my forehead and asking if I remembered what we talked about upstairs. But she didn't call.
She didn't text.
And by the second day, I went to the police. By the fourth, they stopped answering my updates. On the seventh, I gave up on sleep. And on the eighth, she came back. Same face. Same voice. Same scent. But the woman standing in my doorway that night wasn't Zoe. Not really. The first thing I noticed was her smile. It was too perfect. Not the kind of perfect that made your heart melt, but the kind that looked like it had been studied in a mirror and copied from memory. When I opened the door that night and found her standing there, drenched from the rain, mascara smudged, hair stuck to her forehead, my heart stopped. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared. Zoe. I whispered. She nodded. Hi, baby. I should have cried. I should have collapsed into her arms. But something about the way she said it, baby, felt wrong.
Off.
Like she knew it was the right word, but didn't know why. I stepped aside to let her in, my body moving before my brain could catch up. She walked past me, slowly, her boots leaving wet prints on the floor. I closed the door. Where have you been? I asked, voice shaking. I've been so worried, I thought. I know, she interrupted gently. I'm sorry. I turned to face her. What happened? I don't remember everything. There was the party. And then I think I got lost? Or maybe someone took me. I don't know. It's like there's fog in my head. Did someone hurt you? No, she said too quickly.
No.
I'm fine. I took a step toward her, and she let me touch her. Her skin was cold.
Damp.
But it was her. Same freckles.
Same jawline.
Same scar on her collarbone from when she fell off the bike in July. But her eyes weren't hers. Zoe had always had this warmth in her gaze, this mischievous flicker, like she was always 2 seconds away from saying something wildly inappropriate just to see me blush. But now, her eyes looked blank.
Still.
Like a pond in winter.
You're freezing, I said.
Come take a shower. I'll get you something dry. She nodded, still quiet. I led her to the bathroom, grabbed an old hoodie from the laundry pile, and waited outside while she cleaned up. I listened for the water, tried not to imagine blood or silence. When she came out, she looked a little more like herself. Hair wet, hoodie oversized, face clean. She smiled again, softer this time. Thanks. Are you sure you're okay? I asked. Do you want to go to the hospital? Or the police? No, she said quickly. I just want to be home. With you. That should have reassured me. It didn't. I made her tea. We sat on the couch. She curled up next to me like she always had, her head on my shoulder, her hand tangled in mine. But she flinched when I kissed her forehead. Not noticeably. Just a twitch. A delay. Like she hadn't expected it. Zoe had never been startled by my touch. Later that night, I watched her sleep. She lay on her side facing me, breathing evenly, one hand tucked under her cheek. I counted the freckles again. Every one still there. And yet I couldn't stop staring. Couldn't stop listening. Something in me, some primal, terrified instinct, was screaming. I got up and tiptoed to the kitchen. Grabbed my phone. Searched missing persons memory loss. Paranoia after trauma. Can trauma change behavior? Every result said the same thing. Be patient.
Give her time.
Don't jump to conclusions. But what if it wasn't trauma? What if it was something else? The next morning, she made pancakes. Just like always. Zoe loved breakfast. She'd dance around the kitchen, playing music too loud, flipping pancakes with theatrical flair. But this time, there was no music. No dancing. She cooked in silence. And when she served me the plate, I smiled through the nausea. No strawberries? I asked. She blinked. You don't like strawberries. You don't like strawberries, I corrected. I love them. A pause. Then, right.
Sorry. I meant to say that.
But she hadn't. She didn't even realize the mistake until I pointed it out. And that's when the panic began to bloom. It started small. She couldn't remember the name of the cafe we always went to on Sundays. She forgot the lyrics to our song. The one she sang off-key just to annoy me. She used phrases she'd never used before. Called my mom Mrs. Keller instead of Lynn. And then there were the dreams. She started waking up at 3:17 a.m. every night, gasping. I'd ask what she dreamed, and she'd shake her head. Nothing. Just shadows. On the fifth night, I found her standing at the foot of the bed, staring out the window. Zoe, I whispered. She turned slowly. I didn't open it, she said. Open what? The door. I didn't open it, but something came in anyway. I sat up. What are you talking about? She looked at me for a long moment, and then she said, Do you remember when we first met? Of course. Tell me. Zoe, please. Tell me what I was wearing. You had a purple raincoat and mismatched socks. One had stars. One had pumpkins. Her lips trembled. I don't remember that. It's okay. You were probably nervous. You tripped over the curb and spilled your coffee on me. You said it was the best first impression you'd ever made. She laughed, but it was hollow. It sounds like something I'd say. It is something you said. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands gripping the blanket. I don't know what's happening to me. I feel like I'm wearing skin that doesn't fit. Like I'm seeing the world through someone else's eyes. Then tell me the truth, I whispered. Are you Zoe? Her head turned slowly toward me. Her mouth opened.
Closed.
Then she said the worst thing she could have said. I don't know. I stopped sleeping. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, not Zoe as I remembered, laughing in the sun, smudged eyeliner, freckled shoulders, but the new one. The one that looked like her, but moved like a stranger. The one that said, I love you, like she was learning the words for the first time. It started small. I began checking my phone late at night when she was asleep beside me, reading old texts, watching old videos, replaying voice notes, listening for differences. I thought maybe if I could compare them side by side, I'd find a crack.
A tell.
Something irrefutable. In one video from July, she sang to me while brushing her teeth, foam spilling from the corners of her mouth, the words slurred and ridiculous. In another, from August, she filmed herself trying to bake banana bread and burning every part of it, including the tips of her own fingers. In the background, I laughed so loudly it distorted the mic. It's inedible, she groaned. You're beautiful, I said. She winked. Same thing. That Zoe was still in my phone, still in the cloud, but not in my bed, not in my kitchen, not behind the eyes that stared at me now with practiced warmth. I started testing her quietly, asking about small things. Remember the name of the hotel we stayed at for our anniversary? Cedar something?
Wrong.
What's the song you said reminded you of us? That one by Taylor Swift.
Wrong.
Where did you get the little scar on your hip? I think I cut it shaving.
Wrong.
It was from when she tried to climb a fence to rescue a stray cat and fell into rose bushes. But the scariest part wasn't that she didn't know. It was that she didn't seem to care. She just shrugged each time, said something like, it's all fuzzy, or that must have been when I was drunk, or you know me, I forget everything. But she didn't. The real Zoe remembered everything. She remembered the name of my childhood hamster. She remembered the face I made when I hated a movie but tried to pretend I didn't. She remembered what side of the bed I liked to sleep on, what scent made me cry, what word made me flinch. This one? She touched me like she was mapping unfamiliar terrain. One morning, I caught her watching me while I brushed my hair. Not in the way a lover watches. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. In the way a scientist observes a test subject. What? I asked. She blinked, smiled. Nothing. You're just so beautiful when you're distracted. I nodded, but something inside me recoiled. That night, I dug deeper. I opened her laptop when she went to shower. Checked the browser history.
Cleared.
I checked her notes app. Empty. Her photos? Only ones taken after she'd come back. All the others were gone. I found her old backup drive in the drawer and plugged it in. Nothing. Erased. My throat tightened. I opened my own gallery again. Rewatched everything. Listened to her voice. Memorized the cadence, the lilt, the phrasing. Then I walked to the living room where she was scrolling through her phone and asked, "Say it." "Say what?" "Say, same thing. The way you did in the banana bread video." She looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "Just say it." "Same thing." It wasn't the same. It was flatter. Empty. My skin prickled. "You okay?" she asked. I forced a smile.
Yeah.
"Just tired." "You should rest. You should stop pretending." The words slipped out. She froze. "What do you mean?" I swallowed hard. "Tell me something only we would know." "Anything." "Sarah, now." A long silence. Then, softly, "That night at the lake. When we fell asleep in the car. I woke up before you and watched the sunrise through the windshield. I thought it looked like you. Quiet.
Warm.
Like something I'd never deserve." My breath caught. That happened. I never told anyone. Not even her. I only knew because I'd woken up just in time to see her wiping a tear from her cheek, staring through the glass. "How did you know that?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Her gaze held mine. "Maybe I'm not who I was," she said. "But I'm still yours." I backed away. "Who told you that?" "That memory." "I was there." "No," I said. "You were never there. You were watching." She stood. "You don't understand what it's like. To wake up in a life you recognize but don't remember. To feel like a puzzle with pieces jammed in the wrong places." "Then tell me what happened. That night. At the party." Her mouth opened.
Closed.
"I heard a voice," she said finally. "It called my name from behind the wall. I followed it. There was a door. It shouldn't have been there. I stepped through and she broke off. And it felt like falling, but sideways. Like time bent. My blood ran cold. And when you came back, I remembered your name, your face, your warmth, but not me." "Then who are you?" Her voice was soft. "Someone who wants to be her."
For you.
I shook my head. "You can't just wear someone else's life like a costume." "Why not? Isn't that what people do every day?"
Hide. Pretend.
Love the version of themselves they wish was real. "This isn't pretending," I whispered. "This is invasion." She stepped closer. "Do you want me to go?" My voice trembled. "I don't know."
She didn't go.
She stayed. And that night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time. I stopped calling her Zoe. Not out loud, never that. But in my mind, the name started to slip. I called her she, her, the girl in my house. I couldn't bring myself to think of her as Zoe anymore. It felt like calling a shadow by the name of a woman. After the night I locked my bedroom door, I started keeping track of things. Small things. The kind of things no one else would notice. I kept a journal, hidden under a loose floorboard in the closet. Monday, coffee cup moved. She doesn't drink coffee. Tuesday, window open when I left it closed. No wind. Wednesday, my locket was missing from the jewelry box. Found it in the freezer. Thursday, she said good morning in a voice that wasn't quite hers. Like a mimic trying to blend in. Like something learning how to be human. I watched her hands when she moved. Zoe used to have restless fingers, always tapping, fidgeting, playing with the ends of her hair. This version was still, controlled, too precise. The way she cut vegetables, folded clothes, Open doors. It was all careful, measured, as if she were afraid of breaking something or revealing something. I started sleeping at a friend's place a few nights a week. Told her I needed space. She never argued, just nodded and smiled like she was relieved. But every time I came back, I found the apartment changed. Nothing obvious, just shifted. The air smelled wrong. The light felt dimmer. The mirrors reflected my face a second too slow. The cat wouldn't come inside anymore. And then Maddie called. Maddie, who threw the party, who hadn't returned my messages since Zoe disappeared. She called me after midnight, voice trembling. "Can I come over?" she whispered. I met her outside. She looked pale.
Wrecked.
I didn't know who else to talk to, she said. I've been seeing things. I brought her inside, made tea, waited for her to speak. She sat on the edge of the couch like it might bite her. That night, she said, I saw Zoe. I thought I did. In the hallway upstairs. Around 2 a.m. That's impossible, I said. She disappeared before midnight. Maddie's hands clenched around the mug. I know, but I saw her. She was walking down the hall toward the attic door. There's no attic door at Maddie's house. That's what I thought, she whispered. But it was there. Just for a second. And she walked through it. And then, it vanished. I stared at her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought I was drunk. Or dreaming. But I wasn't. I swear, Sarah, I saw her open a door that wasn't real. I felt cold. Like my blood had turned to snow. And then, after she came back, Maddie added, I started hearing whispers in my apartment. At night. My cat won't sleep inside. My phone keeps glitching when I try to look at pictures from a party. Every time I open the gallery, that hallway is gone. Like it was erased. My mouth went dry. You think she brought something back with her? Maddie shook her head. I think she is what came back. We didn't speak after that. She left before sunrise. I didn't sleep. The next day, I asked her, the one in my kitchen, do you remember the attic door? She froze. Just for a second. Then smiled. What attic? Wrong answer. That night, I placed cameras around the apartment. Small ones.
Hidden.
One in the living room. One in the hallway. One in the bedroom. I told myself it was paranoia. I told myself it was protection. I told myself I wasn't crazy. The footage started normal. Then strange. In the clips, she moved differently.
Slower.
Less fluid. Like something puppeteering a body. In one video, she stood in the living room at 3:17 a.m., just staring at the blank TV screen for 7 minutes. In another, she turned her head sharply toward the hallway camera, as if she knew it was there. As if she was watching me. On Friday, I came home and found every camera melted. The plastic warped. The lenses cracked. No signs of fire. Just heat. Targeted, unnatural heat. She sat on the couch, reading a book she never would have touched before. Bad day, she asked. I didn't answer. I went to the bedroom, locked the door, checked the mirror. And for a moment, just one, I didn't see myself. I saw someone standing behind me. But when I turned around, no one was there. That night, she came to the door. Knocked once. Can I sleep next to you? She asked softly. I miss the way you breathe. My voice broke. Not tonight. Silence. Then, you're scared of me. Shouldn't I be? I don't want to hurt you. Then tell me the truth. A long pause. Then she said, I'm trying to remember what it feels like.
To be loved.
To be held. To be her. But you're not. No, she whispered. I'm what's left. The first dream didn't feel like a dream. It felt like a memory I'd never lived. I was standing in a hallway, narrow, endless, lined with closed doors that pulsed with faint, unnatural light. The air was thick, electric, and the walls breathed like lungs. I wasn't alone. I could feel her behind one of the doors, pounding, screaming, but I couldn't hear her voice. Only the pressure of it, like a heartbeat in my bones. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat, my hands clutching the bedsheets like rope, my throat raw like I'd been screaming. I checked the time. 3:17 a.m. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I stared at her across the breakfast table, at the thing wearing Zoe's face, and asked, "Do you dream?" She looked up from her bowl of cereal and smiled. "Sometimes." "What about?" "Dark rooms. Locked doors. The sound of someone crying." "Do you know who it is?"
A pause.
"Maybe me." I didn't press further. My fingers trembled against the mug in my hands. That day, I met Maddie at a cafe we used to go to back when everything was simple. She looked worse than the last time I saw her, more sunken, more brittle. "I had a dream," I said. "Of course you did," she muttered. "That place, it doesn't let go." "You've seen it too?" "Every night." She slid something across the table, a photocopy of a photo from the party. A group shot taken on the staircase. I looked at it, counted the faces. "She's not in it," I whispered. "No," Maddie said. "But look at the mirror behind us." I did. My stomach twisted. In the corner of the mirror, barely visible, was a silhouette. A girl with long dark hair, standing in the hallway, staring into the lens. Her eyes were all black. "That wasn't Zoe," I whispered. "No," Maddie agreed. "It was what was waiting." We needed answers. So we went back. To the house. Maddie hadn't returned since the party. It looked abandoned. Dust-coated furniture. Stale air. But as we climbed the stairs to the second floor, the same chill I'd felt in the dream settled into my spine. The hallway was narrower than I remembered. Or maybe we were bigger now.
Changed.
"It was here," Maddie said, stopping in front of the wall beside the linen closet. "The door was right here." There was nothing. Just wallpaper. But I touched it, pressed my palm to the surface, and felt a pulse. A heartbeat that wasn't mine. "Did you feel that?" I asked. Maddie nodded, like it's alive. We stood there, unsure of what to do next, when she said, "We need to talk to someone."
Who?
I did some digging. There's a woman, Clara Whitmore. She used to be a folklore professor. Lost her job for writing about threshold spaces. Places where the veil between worlds thins. Do you think that's what the door was? I think it was never meant to be opened. That night I dreamed again. This time I saw her. The real Zoe. She was in a room that looked like our apartment but was wrong in small, terrifying ways. The clock ticked backward. The windows were painted black. And she sat in the corner, knees to her chest, whispering something over and over. "Sarah.
Sarah.
Sarah." I screamed her name. She looked up. Her eyes met mine. And then she reached toward me, begging, shaking, and whispered, "She's watching you." I woke up sobbing. My hands were cold, my skin damp. And when I stumbled into the living room, she was there, the other one, standing by the window, unmoving, staring into nothing. "You're not sleeping," I said. She turned slowly. "I don't need to." "Why not?" "Because she dreams for me." I felt like I might faint. I backed away. "Who are you?" Her voice was low, ancient. I was born behind the door. In the space between yes and no. In the silence after goodbye. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing. I just took her place." "Bring her back." "You can't bring back what's been taken. Only what's still fighting."
"She's still alive," I said.
I saw her. Her expression faltered. For the first time, something flickered, regret, maybe, or guilt. Then maybe she's stronger than I thought. And maybe you're weaker.
She didn't respond.
Just turned back to the window. The next day, Maddie and I drove 3 hours to meet Clara Whitmore. She lived in a cabin surrounded by wind chimes and dead trees. She looked like someone who'd seen too much and survived just enough. We told her everything. She listened without interrupting, then said, "There are doors that aren't meant for us. Not made of wood or metal, but of want, of pain. Sometimes, when a soul is vulnerable, fractured by fear or grief, it opens without knowing, and something answers." "Can we bring Zoe back?" I asked. "Only if she's still inside. Only if she wants to return."
"She does."
I saw her. Clara nodded slowly. Then you'll have to find the door again. And open it the right way. But be warned, child. When you open a door, it opens you back.
I didn't know what that meant then.
But I felt it settle in my bones like a warning I would one day understand. The night Clara told me that dreams could be doors, I didn't hesitate. I asked what I needed to do. She handed me a small vial of black liquid, thick, bitter, smelling like burnt sage and old iron, and said, "Drink this at 3:17. Not before. Not after. And do not wake until it ends." "What is it?" I asked. "A tether," she replied. "It'll let you walk the path she took, if she wants you to find her. And if she doesn't, then you'll get lost with the rest of them." That night, I didn't tell Maddie. I didn't tell the thing in my house. I just waited. Watched the clock tick past 3. My hands were shaking as I raised the vial to my lips. It burned going down, thick and acrid, like swallowing memory itself. The world tilted. My knees buckled. And everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my bed. I was in a hallway, endless, flickering with broken light, the walls warped like they were made of skin instead of wood. The air smelled like ash and roses. I started walking.
The floor was soft under my feet.
There were doors on either side, hundreds, maybe thousands, each one different. Some were elegant and carved. Others were simple, rotting, or sealed with chains. I passed one that looked like our bedroom door. Another shaped like the stall door from our high school locker room. Each door a memory, a fear, a moment. I felt her. Somewhere ahead. Faint but calling. "Zoe!" I screamed. My voice echoed, but it didn't bounce back. I kept walking, turning when instinct told me to, trusting that part of myself that still knew her better than anything.
Then I saw it. Her door.
The one from the dream. Black wood, with a brass handle shaped like a heart. I touched it. It was cold. Too cold. But it opened. And I stepped through. The room was a twisted version of our apartment. Everything familiar, but wrong. The furniture was in the right place, but covered in frost. The photos on the wall were warped, faces blurred, smiles twisted. And there she was.
Zoe.
The real Zoe. Curled in the corner, her knees to her chest, her eyes wide and lost. Zoe. I ran to her, dropped to my knees. She blinked slowly, like waking from a long coma. "Sarah?" Her voice cracked. "Is it really you?" "Yes," I sobbed. "I'm here. I found you." She started to cry. Violently. Her hands reached for mine, trembling, ice cold. "She's still inside me," she whispered. "She's watching." "I know. But I'm going to get you out." "You can't." "Yes, I can. I just need you to remember. I need you to fight." "I tried," she whimpered. "She shows me things. Makes me feel things that aren't mine. Sometimes I forget which thoughts are hers and which are mine." I cupped her face. "Then remember us. The lake. The way you kiss when you're tired. The first time you said you loved me." "I don't remember the words," she said, sobbing harder. "Only how your face looked after. Like I'd given you something real."
"You did," I said.
"And you still can." Her arms wrapped around me, tight, desperate. She said if I try to leave, she'll hurt you. She already is. The walls of the room began to pulse. The ceiling cracked, darkness bleeding through. Something was coming. "We don't have much time," I said.
"You have to walk with me."
"Through the door." "I'm afraid." "So am I." "What if I bring her with me? Then we'll fight her together." We stood, held hands, faced the door. But before we reached it, a voice echoed from the shadows.
Low.
Mocking. "She doesn't belong to you anymore." The room twisted. The air turned thick with static. A shape emerged from the far corner. Not Zoe. Not really. A version of her, taller, sharper, with eyes black as ink and a mouth that smiled too wide. "You left her," it said. "You let her walk into the dark alone. I didn't know, you did. You always knew she carried more sadness than you wanted to hold. So you smiled and kissed her and looked away when it got heavy." I shook my head. That's not true. Isn't it? The thing hissed. You loved her when she was light, but not when she was storm. Zoe's grip on my hand weakened. Don't listen, I begged. She's lying.
She's truth, the shadow said.
The part of her you ignored. The part you never wanted to see.
You're not her, I said.
You're just what was waiting. What found the cracks when she was at her weakest? And you put the cracks there. Zoe fell to her knees. Maybe I did, she whispered. Maybe I wanted to disappear. My heart shattered. If that's true, I said gently, then let me be the one to help you back. Even if I didn't see your pain before, I see it now. And I won't look away again. The thing screamed. A sound like splintering glass and rotting wood. The walls buckled. The lights flickered.
Go,
I shouted.
now.
Zoe stood, face pale, eyes wide, but in them, a flicker of fire, of fight, of memory. She took my hand. We ran. The thing lunged. The room collapsed. And just as it reached us, we stepped through the door. I woke up gasping. Alone. Cold. But not empty. I looked at the bed. Zoe was lying there.
Still.
Eyes closed. Not breathing. But her hand twitched. Once. Then again. And when her eyes opened, they were hers. At first, I thought it was over. I watched her open her eyes, the ones I had memorized 100 times before the nightmare began, and for a few seconds, everything felt still, like waking from a dream that almost drowned you, only to realize you're still floating. Sarah, she whispered, my name in her mouth again. I hadn't realized how much I missed the way she said it, soft, weighted, like a question, and an answer at the same time. I cried. I collapsed into her arms, kissed her cheeks, her mouth, her forehead, like I could convince her skin to stay warm just by loving it enough. You came back, I whispered, over and over. You found me, she whispered back. You pulled me out. That night we held each other until we fell asleep, breath sinking like it always used to. And for the first time in weeks, I dreamed of nothing. But peace never lasts. Not with doors like that. Not when you've brought something back through them. The first sign was her reflection. We were brushing our teeth the next morning, side by side, our shoulders touching like puzzle pieces, and I caught it in the mirror, a flicker, a delay. She moved a second too slow. Her smile lingered in the glass when her real mouth had already stopped. I didn't say anything.
Not then.
I didn't want to believe what I saw. That night, while she showered, I checked her phone. It was full of old messages, real messages, ones I remembered sending, ones only she would have. A relief. And then I checked the notes app. One entry. Just a single sentence. Sometimes I still feel her watching from inside. I dropped the phone. When she came out wrapped in a towel, hair damp and cheeks flushed, I tried to smile, tried to forget. But her eyes caught mine and I saw it. The fear. The awareness. She knew something wasn't right. Later, curled up on the couch, I asked carefully, how are you feeling? Really? Like I'm stitched together wrong, she said. Like the edges of me are fraying. Do you remember the dream? All of it. And the thing. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She's not gone. What do you mean? She's quiet, but she's there. Like a whisper in my blood. Like if I let go, she'll take my place again. We won't let her.
How?
I didn't have an answer. The next day, we went to Clara. She took one look at Zoe and sighed. I was afraid of this, she said. You didn't close the door. You only ran through it. So she's still connected? I asked. The tether remains. The thing is weakened, yes. But if it fed enough while it was here, it might be strong enough to pull her back. How do we stop it? Clara hesitated. You need to sever the link. Rip it out.
Clean.
But that kind of ritual, it's not safe. It requires both of you. And complete truth. Truth.
Zoe asked.
You have to confess everything, Clara said. The darkest parts. The things you never told each other. Secrets create shadow. You can't cast something out if it has places to hide. That night, we sat in the bedroom, lights off, candles flickering like nervous hearts. I could barely look at her.
You go first, she said.
Her voice was soft.
Real.
Human. I nodded. I knew you were hurting before the party, I said. I saw it in your eyes. I saw how you stopped singing, how you pulled away when I touched your back. And I pretended not to, because I didn't know how to help. And I was afraid you'd need more than I could give. Silence. Then, I hated the way I made you worry, she whispered. So I smiled more. I lied better. And when I followed that voice through the door, part of me didn't fight. Part of me wanted to disappear. I reached for her hand. You didn't deserve what happened. I should have fought harder. Seen clearer. And I should have let you in, she said. But now her body jerked. A spasm. Her nails dug into my skin. Her pupils dilated. She's waking up, she choked. She knows we're trying to push her out. I held her tighter. Then we do it now. The candles flickered violently. Shadows twisted on the walls. Too fast, too sharp. Clara stood behind us, chanting. Words I didn't understand. Language older than grief. Zoe screamed. Her voice cracked. And then it wasn't her voice. You don't belong here, the thing snarled. She chose me. I gave her peace. You only gave her pain. You're a parasite, I spat, feeding off what she couldn't say out loud. I am what she buried. I'm the scream behind her smile, the silence you kissed and called love. Then burn, I whispered. Burn in the truth. Clara poured salt across the floor. Light burst through the lines. Zoe collapsed, convulsing. Her body thrashed, her mouth split in a silent scream. I held her head, whispered her name, over and over, until the thing inside wailed and fled.
Gone.
Smoke.
Ash.
Silence. Zoe opened her eyes. Bloodshot. Tears streaming. It's gone, she said. I can't feel her anymore. We didn't speak for a long time. We just held each other in the circle of salt, breathing, sobbing, surviving. But in the back of my mind, I knew the truth. She was gone. But what she left behind might not be. In the beginning, it was small. A hesitation in her step. A flicker in her gaze. A silence that stretched just a second too long. But I told myself it was trauma. Healing. Recovery. No one could go through what she did and come out untouched. We lit candles every night, slept side by side with our hands laced like lifelines. I whispered that she was safe, that she was back, that I would never let the dark in again. And she whispered it back, like a promise she desperately wanted to believe. But healing, I learned, isn't linear. And some wounds don't close. They shift. They open in new places. They change the shape of who you are. The first time I saw her standing barefoot in the garden at midnight, unmoving, arms outstretched like she was waiting for something to come down from the sky, I didn't wake her. I just watched, heart pounding, because something in me knew she wasn't sleepwalking. She was listening. Days passed. Zoe laughed again. She touched me with the ease of someone who remembered how I liked to be held. We made pancakes together, kissed in the kitchen. She wore my hoodie like she always used to, curling up inside it like it could protect her from everything. But sometimes her eyes would go glassy, and I'd catch her mouthing words she wasn't speaking. What did you say? I'd ask. Nothing, she'd reply, blinking. Just thinking. But I'd heard it. Words I didn't know. Ancient syllables that made the air feel colder. She didn't remember them later. That was the worst part. The forgetting. She started losing time. Hours at a time. I think I went for a walk, she'd say. Barefoot, her clothes damp with morning dew. Or maybe I took a nap. She never used to forget. She remembered everything. What I wore on our second date, what song played when we first kissed, the exact temperature of her coffee. Now she couldn't remember what day it was. I told Clara. Her face darkened. Something rooted itself in her, she said. Not the entity. That's gone. But something new. Something born from the experience. It's not possession anymore. It's evolution. You mean she's changing? I mean, she already has. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to hold Zoe and pretend nothing had changed. But the next day, I found her in the living room, drawing symbols on the floor in charcoal. "What are you doing?" I asked, heart-thudding. She looked up, confused. "I don't know. My hand just moved. I cleaned the marks, burned the charcoal."
She didn't resist.
She just watched me, wide-eyed, like she didn't fully understand what she'd done. "Do you still feel like you?" I asked.
"Sometimes," she said.
"And other times?" "Like I'm made of someone else's memories." That night, she cried in her sleep, not sobbing, just slow tears leaking from the corners of her eyes as her lips whispered names I'd never heard. I wiped them away, kissed her temple,
And tried not to break.
because I loved her, all of her, even the parts that scared me, especially those. The next morning, Maddie called. She'd had another dream. It wasn't like before, she said. This time, she was calling to me. "Zoe."
No.
Whatever was left behind. It's reaching out. To all of us.
Why?
Because it knows you took her back. And it wants to leave a piece behind. A seed. You think it's inside her? I think it is her. Now. I hung up. I didn't tell Zoe. I couldn't. That afternoon, I found a new journal under the bed.
One I didn't buy.
One she hadn't written in before. The first page was blank. The second held a sketch, and I, wide and bleeding, surrounded by sigils. On the third page, just one line. "I remember the place where names don't matter." I burned the book. She watched the flames, said nothing, but her hands trembled. "You're afraid of me," she whispered. "I'm afraid for you," I corrected. "I feel like I'm unraveling," she said. "Like something in me is blooming that doesn't belong." Then we cut it out. What if it's too late? Then we fight harder. That night, we held each other under the covers, forehead to forehead. I memorized her heartbeat, her scent, her warmth, just in case I lost her again. Just in case next time she didn't come back as someone I could still love. It started with names. She whispered them in her sleep, strange names, names I didn't recognize, names that didn't belong to anyone in our lives. At first, I thought they were dreams, fragments, echoes. But then we watched the news. A local fire, for people trapped, all of them dead. And I heard her whisper the last name of one of the victims the night before. I didn't say anything at first. I told myself it was coincidence, a trick of the brain. But then it happened again.
And again. Names.
Events. Descriptions. She knew things that hadn't happened yet. And when I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She only said, "It's getting harder to tell which thoughts are mine." Clara's words came back to me. It's not possession anymore. It's evolution. Zoe was changing, and not into something I could understand. And the worst part? She was calm.
Detached.
Like the panic had burned out, and all that was left was quiet surrender. She didn't cry anymore. Didn't flinch. When she looked at me, it was with a kind of reverence I couldn't bear. Like she already knew how it would end. "You're not scared?" I asked her. "Not of what's coming," she said. "Only of what I'll lose." Me? Everything I was before the door. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the future out of her mouth and make it stop. Maddie came by that night. She hadn't been sleeping. She looked worse than ever. "There are others," she said. "Others who dreamed of the door." I found a forum. Obscure. Private. People all over the world talking about it. And most of them don't survive. Not really. They vanish.
Or they change.
Like her. Is there a pattern? Only one. The people who come back always know things they shouldn't. And eventually they don't want to come back at all. What do you mean? Maddie hesitated. The thing inside them, it gives them power.
Clarity.
It makes them feel like they're more than human. And once they feel that, they let go of who they were. Yes. After Maddie left, I sat alone with Zoe on the bed. Her fingers traced slow circles on my wrist, the way she used to when we were tangled together in the dark after love. "Do you still want to stay?" I asked. "With me?" "Always," she whispered. "But that version of me, she's slipping. And I don't know if I can hold her much longer. Then let me hold her for you. You already are. That's why it hurts so much. The next morning, the mirror in the hallway shattered. No sound, no force, just a sudden web of cracks that stretched like veins, and in the center, a dark spot that bled into the reflection. Zoe stood in front of it, her breath fogging the glass even though the room wasn't cold. She wants me back, she said, the part that stayed behind. Then we don't let her win. I'm not sure that's possible anymore. You're stronger than her. You're not what she left behind. You're what survived. Am I? She asked. Or am I just what was made from the pieces? That night, she kissed me like it was goodbye.
Slow.
Endless. Her hands trembling in mine. Whatever happens, she said, I need you to promise something. Anything. If I lose control, if I stop being me, don't try to bring me back. Zoe, promise me. I can't. You have to. Because the thing inside me, Sarah, it's learning to love you too. And if it does, it'll never let me go. I broke. I cried into her chest, clung to her like it would keep her here. I won't lose you, I swore. Then fight for me. One last time. We went back to Clara. Maddie joined us. The plan was simple and terrifying. Enter one last time. Through the dream. Through the door. But not to rescue Zoe. This time, to destroy the tether from the inside. It'll try to stop you, Clara warned. It'll use everything it has. Your memories. Your guilt. Your love. Let it try, I said. I've seen what it turns people into. Zoe touched my face. And I've seen what love turns people into. I'd rather burn with you than live forever as something I'm not. The ritual began at 3:17. Maddie kept watch. Clara circled us in salt and fire. And I closed my eyes, clutching Zoe's hand, as the world fell away. Back into the dark. Back into the corridor of doors. But this time, the walls were bleeding. And our names had been carved into every surface. Screaming. Mocking. Waiting. The dream felt different this time. Not like falling. Not like floating. It felt like sinking into something that remembered me. Like the place had been waiting. The hallway stretched before us again, but the air was thicker, pulsing with something angry and alive. Zoe held my hand tighter. It knows we're here, she whispered. Let it, I said. We moved quickly. The corridor had changed. Doors warped, melted, some nailed shut. Others wide open, showing flashes of us. Our memories. Our fights. Our kisses. Our first night together in her tiny dorm room, lit by fairy lights. The day she told me she loved me, wrapped in a blanket in the back seat of my car, crying because she didn't believe anyone would ever love her back. It's showing us who we were, Zoe said, to make us stay. We kept walking. The floor grew sticky. The walls pulsed like veins. And then the door appeared. Her door. Black, bleeding light from the cracks. Ready? I asked. I don't think I'll ever be, she said. But I'll do it anyway. We stepped through. The room beyond wasn't like before. It was alive, breathing, watching. And in the center stood a version of Zoe. Not the twisted thing from before, but her, untouched, unchanged, glowing with something more beautiful and dangerous than anything I'd ever seen. You came back, it said in her voice. You always do. We're here to end this, I said. To take her back completely. She doesn't belong to you anymore, it said. She belongs to the grief, to the silence, to the part of herself you never wanted to hold. You're wrong, Zoe said. I'm not yours. I never was. The thing smiled. But you needed me. You needed the quiet when the world was too loud. You needed the escape. I was your relief, your mirror. You were my prison, Zoe said, stepping forward. And I'm breaking the lock. The air trembled. The floor cracked. The false Zoe screamed, a sound not of rage, but of heartbreak. If you leave me, it whispered, you'll never be the same. You'll always feel the empty space I filled. Good, Zoe said. I want to remember how hard it was to survive without her. I stepped beside her. "You're not her pain anymore," I said. "You're her past. And we're done carrying you." We linked hands. The room began to collapse. Light poured in from every crack. The walls buckled, burned, shattered. And just before the world gave way, the thing whispered, "Then I'll wait in the dark for the next broken girl." "No," Zoe said. "We're closing the door." And she did. With one final pull of breath, we stepped through, together.
And the door vanished. Gone.
Sealed. Forever. I woke up gasping. In my room. In my bed. The morning light pouring in through the curtains. I turned. Zoe was there. Sleeping peacefully. No darkness in her breath. No whispers. No delay in the mirror. Just her. All of her. I watched her wake slowly, blinking at me with those eyes, soft, real, hers.
"It's over," she said.
"For good this time." I nodded. "How do you feel?" "Lighter. Like I'm finally only me." We stayed like that for hours. Touching, breathing, crying quietly for everything we had almost lost. For the version of her that never made it back. For the version of me that nearly gave up. Weeks passed. She got stronger. Her memory returned. Her laughter returned. We built new routines. New jokes. New dreams. The mirror stayed whole. The dream stopped. The silence became peace. One night, curled in her arms, I whispered, "Are you afraid it'll come back?" She shook her head. "Not if I keep choosing who I am. Not if I keep choosing you." I kissed her.
Slow.
Grateful. And she smiled into my mouth like someone who finally believed she was alive. We never spoke of the door again. Not in detail. Not out loud. But some nights, when the wind sounded too much like a whisper, I'd hold her tighter. And she'd hold me back. Not because she was afraid, but because she wasn't. And I wasn't. Not anymore. Because we had walked through the dark. Together. And came back as ourselves.
Whole.
In love.
Free.
Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.